To the November 8th meeting of the City County Utilities Commission. And without further ado, Ms. Patrice, would you like to call the roll?
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm going to start with our chairman, Randall Tuttle.
Is present.
Vice Chairman, Wesley Curtis. Vice Chair Wesley Curtis here. Can you hear me? He's frozen.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner
Present.
Harold Day.
Yeah. Present.
Commissioner Tom Griffin.
Present.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines. Here, I saw her say here. Okay. Commissioner Hugh Jernigan.
Present.
Commissioner Dwayne Long.
Present.
Commissioner Chris Parker.
Here.
Commissioner Charles Wilson.
I'm here. I'm trying to figure out the camera on my computer. I can't get it to work. I can't get it to work with Zoom. If I need it on, I may have to log off and then try on my phone, which I know works.
Mr. Wilson, do you have a up at the top of your computer where the camera is? There's a little button. It's not a button really. It's just a slide function. You may have it closed.
Right on the back of the camera?
Well, like no, where your camera's at on the front of it.
No, there's
no?
nothing.
Okay.
I tried to start video, and when I go to it, it says it's using the built-in camera on the computer.
Okay.
Okay.
For whatever reason with Zoom, I've never been able to get the camera to work on my computer. I can, if it's all right, I'll log off on my phone and then log off on my computer and log on my phone. The camera works on that. So
Okay.
that on. So I'll try that. I'll be back on in just a minute.
Okay, well, I have you in the role. And then Commissioner Alan Younger.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Patrice.
welcome.
Welcome again, everyone. We've got a full agenda, and we're going to learn more with our guest, Mr. Williams, about the Atkin PD Association, Water Management Group, excuse me. Without further ado, Ms. Driver.
Hey, good afternoon, Chairman, members of the Utility Commission. We do have a short agenda, but a lot to discuss today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let me introduce those that are on the call. Myself, Courtney Driver, Utility Director, Aaron King, Interim Assistant City Manager, Patrice Glenn, Senior Administrative Assistant, Mike Quivisto, Deputy Utilities Director, J.M. McHarg, Assistant Director of Solid Waste, Michael Stover, Assistant Director of Operations, Bill Brewer, Water Treatment Superintendent, Gordon Dively, Landfill Operations Manager, Shane Chu Huffman, Capital Projects Engineer, Todd Lewis, Senior Civil Engineer, Gail Kettler, our Public Information Officer, Lisa Saunders, Chief Financial Officer, Kelly Latham, Deputy Financial Officer, Jerry Bates, Purchasing Director. Marilena Jensen Guthold will join us shortly if she's not on here yet. And then we have Julie Carter and Patrick Kessler with Risk Management. And last but not least, Jonathan Williams with HDR. So he'll be giving a presentation here shortly after our welcome and announcements. So let me share my screen real quick. Okay, everybody can see that, hopefully. Okay. So again, after the Water Management Group presentation, we'll have our normal water, wastewater, solid waste updates and our agenda items, CIP update if there's time, and then we'll end with closed session. Wanted to update the commission on the vaccination policy. When we last met, the city was looking at a potential vaccination policy for city employees. The policy has been put into or is being implemented, but since we last spoke, some of the teeth have been removed from the policy, meaning that it does not mention termination as a result for not being vaccinated at this time. It also does not mention that existing employees would not be eligible for promotions. So that does not mean that the policy may not be amended in the future. But what's happening right now is that the $1,000 bonus for city employees to be vaccinated has been approved. And we have, all employees have until December 5th to show that they've been vaccinated to be eligible for that $1,000. And then the manager will update the city council after December 5th to see what our vaccination rate is at that time. Also, just hopefully we'll have further guidance from OSHA as far as what the requirements with vaccination and testing and all those requirements. Hopefully they'll have a better understanding what that'll be by then, and then they'll reevaluate the policy at that time. One of the other things that we mentioned, or I mentioned to you last month, and I've had some conversations with those on the commission, is our vacancy rate. We have 65 departmental vacancies right now. It is to a point where it's impacting our service levels. We are recommending to shut down, temporarily close Old Salisbury Road Landfill. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that shortly. But here's a chart of, since 2012, of our vacancy rate. We're at an all-time high, and the last time we were close to this was in 2015. Not as high as we are now, but in 2015 we had a pretty high vacancy rate. Where we're at now, a lot of our vacancies are equipment operators, which are really hurting our operations. We also right now are dealing with, COVID, people being out on quarantine, and that's making our situation a little bit more, it's more dire, I guess, now in 2021 than it was in 2015. And you can see where we changed from July of 2021 to November of 2021. We've had a significant jump in the number of vacancies. So something that we're definitely looking at. Aaron and I had a call or a meeting with HR this morning to try to work through options on how we can remedy that. But as far as the temporary closure of Old Salisbury Road, right now we need 8 heavy equipment operators to efficiently staff Haynes landfill, and we have 3. And so at OSR, we need 2 operators. And so what we need to do is pull those 2 heavy equipment operators from Old Salisbury Road landfill and bring them to Haynes. That still doesn't get us to 8, but it at least is better than just 3. We are recommending to temporarily close this facility from November 22nd through January 30th. We do see a reduced waste stream during winter months. So we feel like we'll be okay. Obviously, any of our customers that visit OSR can bring that construction demolition material to Haynes. So they would have another option. And we plan on, communicating and through social media and direct phone calls with our customers to make them aware of this closure. We also, just because of a COVID outbreak in May of 2020, we had to temporarily close OSR. So we've done this in the past. Obviously, we don't want to do this, but we're at a point now where our service levels are being impacted. So I did want to mention this to the Utility Commission so you would know that that's coming. We do have support from the manager's office to move forward with this. So any other thoughts or questions or comments on this closure?
And so let me just say also that Courtney and I met last week and talked about this, and I presume the commission members will have some thoughts and questions, and so this is a good time to ask.
My question is, anything we took Salisbury Road, we can go to Haynes Mill with it now?
That is correct.
Okay.
Courtney, regarding the number of vacancies we've got, is this across all the city departments or is it unique to us?
It is across all city departments. it is not unique to us. The meeting I had this morning actually included another department. So yes, they're seeing all-time high vacancies as well.
And are we competitive in what we're paying? Is that part of the problem?
That is one piece of the puzzle. I would say yes. We are evaluating what we pay and how we stack up compared to our peers and to the private industry. So that's one piece. But there is, I think, a national shortage of just truck drivers and equipment operators in the construction market. There's so much work going on right now that it's hard to find equipment operators.
Is there a draft where you can pull the 9 commission members plus the chair in there to drive heavy equipment for you?
If you have the experience, we'll take anybody if they have the experience to get on a piece of equipment.
Dwayne, there's a talent problem there, at least from the chair's perspective.
There's a talent problem from the perspective of your representative in Kernersville as well.
Courtney, this is Chris Parker. As we look at these vacancy rates, is this impacting when we try to do any type of closures for people who have, or turn-offs for people who are not paying their water bills?
Yes. So our resources just across the entire department is impacting service levels. So we have not been able to keep up with the number of turnoffs for customers not paying water bills that we need to. We're trying to prioritize those accounts that have high balances and have been delinquent for a long time, and trying to focus on certain ones, prioritize, but it does impact that area as well.
Courtney, we talked last week about the tip rates for C&D at Haynes. Or can we confirm that we'll charge them the same as OSR?
So I checked with Jan on that. So Haynes, the rate at Haynes is $1 more. Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is correct, right?
Yes, that's correct. The gate rate at Haynes is $36, including the tax, and $35 at OSR.
So there's a couple options, but I want to be mindful of we would take the Utility Commission's approval to change those rates at Haynes. And those rates are based off the cost of service, what it costs us to dispose of that at Haynes versus OSR. And so the Utility Commission would need to approve that change of rate at Haynes. And then of course it would be for anybody, our normal Haynes customers as well as OSR customers.
So you can't segregate waste stream?
There would be no way. Well, Jan, you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know that you would be able to know.
And let me make sure. Look, that was a question. I think if staff, I think we'll respond. I think my thought is to respond to staff if they think that's important. So my thought was that we're inconveniencing our customers by sending them to Haynes Mill. And I was hoping not to also not financially inconvenience them, but maybe $1 a ton is not that big a deal. I don't know.
Well, one of the issues is, of course, construction, demolition, landfill, there's things they can't accept. And if you have people going to the construction, demolition, landfill, going to the MSW, I think we'd have a little issue with other things being put on these loads that are typically not allowed in the C&D, but we might give them a rate for C&D. And it also would give us some more staffing issues having to.
Yes. I was just asking the question. I'm not suggesting.
Yeah. But doing some waste load checkings.
I think that's a good point, Hugh. Thank you.
May I make one quick point? Sorry for joining the meeting a little bit late here. I was just looking into this. If you do decide to do a rate change, you'll need to vote to add it to the agenda. Of course, somebody will make the motion, then the commission will vote to add it to the agenda. I don't see anything which requires a particular notice before changing a rate, but of course you'll need to add that to today's agenda if you decide to go down that path.
I was just asking a question.
Sure.
Any other thoughts or questions from commission members about either staffing or Salisbury Road?
This is Charles Wilson. If I understood correctly on the vaccination policy, it's still kind of in draft status. And you mentioned the teeth of it, at least as far as termination, have been taken out. I didn't know what teeth, if any, remained, or if it was just an ineligibility for that $1,000 bonus. I would be a little leery of, having a vaccination policy that exacerbates an already existing staffing shortage problem.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why some of that was pulled out, because we already do have obviously we've got a high vacancy rate across all city departments. And so, yes, if the $1,000 right now is the major incentive for employees to be vaccinated, and you also get a day off if you're vaccinated as well. So I think.
So rather than sticks, it's absence of carrots, I guess.
We're trying the carrot approach right now as much as possible.
Well, but also, don't you have to get weekly testing, Courtney?
Yeah, so after this 6 weeks period, which will be December 5th, there will be weekly testing. And I think the city needs to determine how many employees are going to be left, how many employees are going to need that weekly testing, because how does that impact operations? They're going to have to be tested during their work hours. The expense of testing will fall to the city. So I think there's a lot of questions, and they're still waiting on some OSHA guidelines to figure out what the next move is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and turn it over. Jonathan, you said you were going to share your screen, correct?
That is correct, Courtney.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan.
All right. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, very good. Let me go ahead and share this. All right, good afternoon, commission members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Jonathan Williams. I work with HDR. I am based here in our Winston-Salem office and serve as the Deputy Operations Manager for our South Atlantic Area Water Business Group. So most of my project work surrounds working with different river basin organizations in North and South Carolina, including the Atkin PD Water Management Group. My focus is on water supply planning, and that is one of the things we are working with the Atkin PD Water Management Group on right now, and part of their water resources plan that I'll talk a little bit about here today. So a little bit of background about the organization, starting with the Atkin PD River Basin in North Carolina. As many of you know, there are 7 interconnected reservoirs in the basin, with 3 different lake operators, starting with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers operating Carscott Reservoir, and then Eagle Creek Renewable Energy, formerly Cube Hydro and formerly Alcoa, operating several of the reservoirs from High Rock Lake down to Falls Reservoir. And then below that, for Lake Tillery and Baden Lake, or Lake Tillery and Blewett Falls Lake, are operated by Duke Energy, or formerly Progress Energy, in the basin. The reservoirs are used by almost 2 million people in the Yadkin PD basin, and they serve as a supply for not only drinking water, but for industry and development, for agriculture purposes, as well as both hydropower and thermoelectric power, and quite a bit of recreation, that being boating, kayaking, fishing, and a host of other recreational uses. The overall drainage area is the 2nd largest river basin in the state of North Carolina. It's over 7,200 square miles of drainage area in North Carolina. The Yadkin PD Water Management Group is a group that is made up of multiple water suppliers and then 2 of the lake operators in the basin. You'll see here a listing of the various utilities that are a part of this organization. And then also Duke Energy and Eagle Creek Renewable Energy, or Cube Hydro, are also members. The organization, its mission is really to enhance the welfare of the basin's residents by jointly planning for the sustainable use of water from the Atkin River Basin. And they do that through a variety of things that you see here, really focused around collaboration, education, and stakeholder engagement, and then planning work related to long-range planning for both the water quantity and quality in the basin. So I want to talk a little bit about the water resources plan that the group is undertaking right now. This is a multi-year process that is basically planning water resources, both future water supply availability, making sure that there's enough water, and making sure that that water is of a high quality for the many uses that it is intended throughout the basin. The plan really looks for the next 50 years or so, and what the next 50 years holds in store for water resources in the Atkin PD Basin. And so this plan, we're really focusing on making sure that there's a sufficient supply, both high quality and enough water in the basin long into the future. And the way we do this is scientific research, modeling work, and then also collaboration, making sure we have the right folks at the table to talk about these important issues. Some of the things that we're doing, we are identifying and working to understand what those key water supply issues are within the basin, and then determine how we address those. If there are challenges related to water supply, coming up with strategies that are going to help us in the long term make sure that we are positioned to address those challenges with our water supplies. The other thing that we're doing is looking to identify and implement what we are considering practical solutions on a basin-wide level. So this is not sort of a pie in the sky plan. This is actually looking at what are the gaps in available water supply and quality issues that we may be presented with in the future, and then coming up with some things that are practical and that can be implemented by either utilities, that can be implemented by lake operators, that can be implemented at a state resource agency level, or things that can be implemented by landowners as well to be able to help solve some of the challenges with water supply within the watershed. And then making sure as we do this that we're engaging all the right stakeholders, because we want to make sure while the water management group is made up of water utilities, we want to make sure that the overall plan is reflecting the overall community, recognizing that there are a whole lot of people with different interests within the basin that use the water resources within the Atkin PD. So as I mentioned earlier, the Water Resources Plan is a multi-year process where we're developing a long-range plan to ensure that there is a sufficient supply. And well, how do we do this? The first part of the plan is to actually identify what water quantity and quality concerns there are. And we've been working to do that over the course of about the last year and a half or so. And then as we identify those, then evaluate strategies for how to solve some of those long-range issues. And then finally, once we evaluate those solutions, then what we intend to do is pull all that together into what is essentially a master plan for water resources in the basin, where we can actually develop a plan, develop a schedule, as well as anticipated project cost for various initiatives that can be implemented into the future to tackle some of the key water resources issues. So you'll see here, we are in 2021 right now, in what we're calling phase 4. That involves the next work that we're going to be doing is moving into using the state's water quantity model that they've developed called the Oasis platform for the basin. We are waiting on it to be publicly hosted. The model's been completed by North Carolina DWR, and they are in the process of working through their IT department to get that model posted and publicly available for groups like the Atkin PD Water Management Group to use. Once that model is available, we will turn our attention to actually modeling some of the future scenarios that we've identified with the Atkin PD Water Management Group and a stakeholder advisory committee group that we have. That modeling work will then tell us how some of these future scenarios are going to impact water supply in the future. So you'll see here, this kind of breaks down the 4 core areas of the water resources plan and areas that are being evaluated. We have focused in on communications, making sure that we're developing a plan to be more outwardly facing for how we educate the public related to water resources in the basin, how we can communicate with different organizations within the basin. Another key area is to make sure that we're engaging the agricultural community, including the Farm Bureau. And one of the ways that we've done that is pulled them into our stakeholder advisory committee process. We view them as an essential partner in helping to develop this plan, making sure that we're looking at it holistically, that, you know, when we talk about things like how land is managed in the basin, that we're engaging municipalities that have land use ordinances, that we're engaging property owners, and that we're engaging the agricultural community as well. We are also working towards regional collaboration with other basins, probably most notably the Catawba Watery River Basin, and partnerships that the group has been working with, and collaboration and information sharing with the Catawba Watery Water Management Group, which is the comparable organization to the Yadkin PD Water Management Group in the neighboring basin to the west. And then the other is political outreach, making sure that we are making local governments aware of what the group is doing, as well as folks at a state level and beyond. One of the other areas is the data and research. And you know, I'll point out that there's some of these things that directly benefit Winston-Salem, Forsyth County utilities. And one of those or several of those is in this data and research area. We're looking at ways to improve technology for acquiring data related to water quality in the basin. We've been collecting data and analyzing data on water usage. We've developed a set of water demand projections over the next 50 years for the entire basin. And then the other thing that we are wrapping up right now, just finished it, is a study of W. Scott, and this is one of the things that directly benefits Winston-Salem, is looking at different alternative operational strategies for Scott that the Corps of Engineers could implement that would benefit be to the benefit of water suppliers downstream. That would include Wilkes County. It would include Winston-Salem, Forsyth County utilities, and in reality, all water users downstream, how that reservoir could be operated more effectively, particularly in times of drought situations, to make sure that there's sufficient water downstream for those that rely on it. The other area is on mitigation. And basically looking, once we understand what the data is telling us in the research and the modeling work that we do, is coming up with strategies for how to mitigate any negative impacts from those future scenarios. So things we'll be looking at are things like watershed protection, land conservation measures, how different utilities and the public in general can be implementing water conservation measures. And then also looking at local watershed planning from a local municipal level. And then one of the other areas is funding. And, you know, we identify all these strategies, but the reality is somebody's got to fund them. And so one of the things that our stakeholder group has really stressed is trying to find ways to expand funding through state and private grant opportunities for some of these initiatives in the basin. So as I mentioned earlier, we've completed a few things thus far over the last, I guess about 2 years now. One of the major accomplishments was developing a long-range set of water demand projections and updating some previous projections that have been done for the entire basin. And in addition to that, we work to then develop a comprehensive strategic marketing and communications plan for how we're going to reach out and continue to spread the message of what the group and this water resources plan is seeking to accomplish. We also formed a stakeholder advisory committee group, as I mentioned earlier. And then we have developed a set of 15 different scenarios for future, for evaluation, either through modeling or other analysis. Those are things like future water demand growth, things like climate variability, and a variety of other potential changes that could impact this basin and its water supply. And then we've also done a preliminary evaluation of water quality concerns and issues within the basin for future evaluation. Right now, as I mentioned, the state has wrapped up their Oasis model, which is the hydrologic model that's been developed for the basin. It was developed by Hazen and Sawyer for North Carolina DWR's modeling branch. And the reason the state has updated this is to meet the needs of Session Law 2010-143. And that is specifically related to water resources planning within the state of North Carolina and the need for statewide models. The other thing that I wanted to touch on are the different types of scenarios that we've developed for future planning scenarios. One of these, I guess, key areas is on industry and how future industrial changes. You know, we're seeing a lot of growth in industry throughout the basin, and that is likely only to continue. And so how does those future changes shape water availability in our basin? The other is in agriculture, and looking at how agricultural changes over time, whether that's land use changes or other changes in water use, may impact water availability. Also looking at changes in thermoelectric power and hydropower demand, and then also looking at commerce as we continue to develop and grow. And then the other was behavioral, public behavioral shifts. As we see over time, in recent years, we've seen folks gravitating towards less water use. That's just a general public behavioral shift. And so we're looking at that as a category with different scenarios under that ultimately we're going to be evaluating for how things may shift in the future when it comes to public behaviors, whether that's water use, whether it's number of people per home, housing density, those sorts of things. And then finally, general policy shifts, both at the local and state level. And so we're going to be evaluating a variety of different scenarios under these 6 core areas. Real quickly, I wanted to touch on the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. We believe, the Atkin PD Water Management Group believes that there is a need to have a diverse group of stakeholders. And so that's what we've assembled. You'll see here, we've got folks from agriculture, we've got folks from local government, we've got soil and water conservation districts, we've got regulatory agencies and resource agencies from the state level, and then we've even got academia involved as well. We've got Reynolds American on the industry side, and then we've got some environmental groups as well as recreational interest groups as well. So as you can see, we have a very broad and diverse set of stakeholders, and as a result, we get a very broad insight into the core or key water resources issues in the basin. So right now, what the group is working on is funding assistance planning. We're working with the Yadkin PD Water Management Group to apply for various grants. So in addition to the annual dues that each of the members pay, we are also working with the group to go out and seek private funding through grant opportunities that will help support the group and its mission and its projects. We're also continuing our strategic communications support to the group and for the Water Resources Plan. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we've just wrapped up the Scott Water Supply Allocation Study, and that is basically looking at what are the regulatory process requirements for several different operational changes that could be made at Scott Reservoir to improve and enhance water supply in the future. Some of the things that we are doing, you'll see here, there are really 4 key strategies that we're looking at. One is to reallocate reservoir storage, basically creating an additional water supply pool within the reservoir. That is likely to be the most challenging of all the four. And our goal is that through some combination of these other options that we may achieve a greater water supply benefit than even reallocating the reservoir storage at a much more easily implementable process. So the other is to update a drought plan, updating the Corps' drought plan so that it aligns with the low inflow protocol of other reservoirs, so that basin-wide we have a collaborative and consistent response to drought throughout the basin. And then the other item is operational changes, basically that are inflow dependent. So in times of drought, the outflow is basically balanced against the inflow coming into the reservoir, such that the Corps is able to back off on the amount of water it's releasing downstream in times of drought to be balanced against the amount of inflow coming into the lake. What that does is essentially means the Corps is not passing all this water downstream and lowering its lake level if it's not getting water coming into the reservoir. And so this is more of a change where it balances, it creates a longer lasting water supply pool during times of drought, and then directly benefits downstream users, because it's almost like banking that water upstream for when you really, really need it. And then finally, we're looking at forecast-informed reservoir operations. This is a fairly new technology using modeling work and weather forecast for long-term weather patterns to help actually operate the reservoir based on meteorological forecasts. So we're looking at these four strategies. We've got the Corps of Engineers involved. We've got the Atkin PD Water Management Group involved. We've got the state resource agencies involved. And so what we will now do is we'll move forward and start to model these operational changes and see what the impacts, either positive or negative, are on these four changes. Finally, as I mentioned, we're going to be moving in. Hopefully in January, the model will be available to the Atkin PD Water Management Group, and we'll begin modeling some of these scenarios that we've talked about. After that, in 2023, we're going to really get into the technical evaluations and start making recommendations on some mitigation measures to address some of the water issues in the future. And then finally, looking at collaborative evaluations and recommendations in 2025. This is important to note because what this is really focusing on is taking all the information that we learn as we've put this plan together, and then identifying what the Yadkin PD Water Management Group as a whole and its members can do collectively together to address some of the water resources needs and issues within the basin moving forward. And then in late 2025, we'll wrap up the plan, actually put the plan together, and we'll be rolling that out. So I'm sure at a future date, we'll probably be back to talk with you about some of the recommendations that come out of this plan. So with that, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Jonathan, it's Chris Parker. I'm just wondering, and I assume this is under your purview, but can you maybe tell us, are we going to see any changes in enforcement of any EPA requirements on phosphorus and nitrogen?
That's a great question and timely because we are actually, I also work with the Atkin PD River Basin Association. The state of North Carolina, they have just proposed their draft nutrient criteria for High Rock Lake. And as a result of that, along with the River Basin Association, the Atkin PD Water Management Group have collectively put together a set of comments to that proposed draft rule. And so, yes, there are changes coming. They are going to have a criteria for phosphorus that is set right now. It's not any criteria related to nitrogen, but it is phosphorus. They are, that is forthcoming. And then obviously once that criteria is set, then it looks like, they'll move forward with the nutrient management plan process on High Rock Lake. So we're factoring that in with our planning work that we're doing. making sure that utilities are prepared for how to address that. But frankly, more importantly, how can we also make sure that we work with other stakeholders beyond just point sources within the basin? How can we work with agricultural community and municipalities for stormwater ordinances that are going to help address that issue too? Because the reality is it's a collective issue that everybody is responsible for in the basin.
So Jonathan, if I hadn't had a pre-meeting with Courtney, I wouldn't include in that this group is more about water supply, and the other groups that we sometimes hear is more about water quality, and that's the TMDL question. So your group, this group focuses mainly on quantity. Is that correct?
Well, it focuses on both quantity and quality. The River Basin Association, which is the other group, is really focused on, they are the monitoring coalition with the wastewater dischargers in the basin. This group is focused around the water suppliers. So we look at water quantity and quality, but we're looking at it from the perspective of treatable and drinkable water for your customers.
Thank you.
Jonathan, go ahead, Harold. Well, I got a question. Do we not own the top 30 or 40 foot of water at Kerscott? How's this going to affect our supply when we need water? Can we still have permission to get water when we need it?
Yes, you do. And so this is part of the reason we're looking at this is actually working to make that available water for Wilkes County and City of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County utilities to enhance that water availability for you. I think over the years, y'all have talked about looking to increase that water supply pool anywhere from 5 to 10 feet. So that's one of the options that we're looking at so that you would have more water. The other thing that we're looking at, are there ways to maintain your existing pool, but then make some operational changes with the core at the reservoir that would essentially get you what would amount to be another 5 to 10 feet without actually increasing it. The challenge with increasing your water supply pool at Kerscott, there's some bureaucratic red tape, if you will, at the federal level to actually make that happen. It's possible, but it's a very difficult and expensive process. The other challenge is the dam safety rating at Kerscott. Just because of the type of construction it is with an earthen dam, it's very challenging to actually get that, what they call the DSAC rating, to a level that we could actually increase the water supply pool. So what we're trying to do are find ways around that so that we can get you more water supply out of Kerscott without actually having to increase your current water supply allocation.
Jonathan, this is Tom Griffin. That was Harold's question was one I had, but also in addition to that, I wanted to find out, Courtney, a year or so ago, I think we were in the process of trying to renew our agreement with the feds for Kerscott. Has that been finalized at this point in time?
Yes, that is correct. So the original agreement with the Corps in Wilkes County, went for a period of time, and we did renew that agreement. It's probably been a year or two ago. Yeah.
They were looking at some possible changes in the language. Did we have any substantive changes that took place?
And that's why I had Bill Brewer join me today if there was questions like that. But Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, we renewed the agreement with the existing terms. So it got us everything that we had originally. But we decided that reallocation that Jonathan just mentioned, that's a more difficult conversation. So we will cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, we haven't lost any of our ability to make a call and do what we needed to do in an emergency, is what you're saying.
Correct.
What Jonathan's doing is just maybe give us a way to optimize what's there in a different way. Correct. On an ongoing basis. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll say this, this process has been really good going through this work and doing it through the Yadkin PD Water Management Group, because the Corps has been at the table and they've listened. And I think they're open to looking at doing some things a little differently that would benefit water supply downstream. So we're headed in the right direction.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, then Jonathan, I really appreciate you joining us and updating the commission on what all the water management group is doing. There's a lot going on and it's an important group. And so thank you.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity and hope you all have a great day.
Thanks. You just stop sharing your screen, I guess, before you, I don't know. There you go. All right. Now let me jump back. Well, I guess y'all can see that, but for some reason, hold on a second, let me try this again. Look like my computer froze up, so give me just a second. It's bear with me. Technical difficulties. I'm gonna have to somehow figure out how to start my PowerPoint over again. So hold on just a second. Okay, I think I got it now. Everybody can see that now, right?
Yeah.
All right, let me get there. Okay, well, I'm turning it over to Mike Stover for our water and wastewater update.
Thank you, Courtney. Good afternoon, commission members. So far this fiscal year, we've issued we've conveyed 9 water and sewer permits for a total value of almost $1.3 million. Next slide will show the breakdown between water and sewer. We've conveyed about 1.13 miles of water mains and a little over a half mile of sewer mains so far this fiscal year. Here's the rainfall graphs. As you know, everybody knows, and we've discussed earlier this year, it's been a pretty dry year so far. We had a little over 2 inches of rain for the month of October. Some of the southwestern portion of Forsyth County is abnormally dry, as you can tell from the graph. And then, Courtney, if you get the next slide, we'll show the water production by month. Average production for October of this year was up based from last year, 2.5 million gallons per day. It's about a 7% increase from year to year. And then, like I mentioned, rainfall is down, you know, a little less than half what the 13-year average is. Water quality sampling, we collected almost 27,000 samples the month of October at our 3 water plants and fielded 30 water quality calls with 0 drinking water violations. Collection system update, we did receive the report for August. We had 1 notice of deficiency, 3 notice of violations, 1 of which was intent to enforce that we responded to. We're waiting on a response from the state. Collection system overflows per 100 miles. We're still doing really well considering vacancies, like Courtney mentioned earlier, you know, people out with COVID and staffing shortages in-house and with our crews. We've started the year off strong. If we continue this pace, we would set yet another record for lowest SSOs on record. Here's the SSOs by cause. We had 4 O&M related spills, 2 pipe failures, and that was below the, for a total of 6. And that falls below the 5-year average for the month of October. And last but not least, cleaning productivity. We've you know, had a slow start to the year. October, we were able to gain some significant ground. We doubled up crews for both of our cleaning contracts, and they started closing that gap. And hopefully that pace continues and we get back to the 20% scheduled cleaning goal within the next couple months. Any other questions for the water and sewer updates?
Mike, Tom, the 2.5 million gallon increase in water production, was that some of the Thabra Road, or was that the previous month?
That was back in September. I don't know exactly what the 2.5 million gallons.
So there's another break out there somewhere that we don't know about?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm thinking it's probably dry weather.
Okay.
We're hoping it's dry weather.
We're hoping it's dry weather.
I'll put it this way: if there's a main break, we don't know about it right yet. So hopefully that's not the case.
All right, I will go ahead and talk about the kind of the budget perspective here. Thank you, Mike, and good afternoon, Chairman Tuttle and Commission members. We'll start by taking a look at the water and sewer operating expenditures for FY22 through October, which are represented by the blue bar. We're slightly higher than last year at the same time, which is represented by the red bar. But we are under the budget, which is represented by the light blue shaded area there in these graphs. On the revenue side, we've started the first 4 months of the fiscal year slightly ahead of last year and ahead of the budget, which is good news. This slide shows our past due balances ticking up ever so slightly again in October to just under 3.8 million. While the city and county are working to increase participation in the emergency rental assistance program, we've not yet really seen heavy participation from our water and sewer customers, with the utility receiving about $209,000 on behalf of 422 of our water and sewer customers through October. And then Courtney, if you'll go to the next one. So this slide shows our history of delinquent accounts, which decreased very slightly in October. For years that has been administered locally by the Forsyth Department of Social Services, Forsyth County Department of Social Services, and anyone who has received help through that program will automatically be eligible for assistance under this new water program, meaning that many of our customers with the highest needs will not need to go through an application process to receive assistance. So we're working to get all of that set up with Forsyth County Social Services staff, and are hoping that we can begin to implement that early next year, and that we'll see significant progress regarding our delinquencies once it's in place. It's actually very good news for us. We're just waiting to see what the level of funding is. We understand it's a temporary program through 2023 as of now, but that may change. So we'll keep you on the loop there, but that's actually very good news for us and our customers. So if there are no questions, I'll turn it over to Jan McCarg for the solid waste update.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin, you can go to the next slide, Courtney, thanks. I want to begin with the financial results for the solid waste fund. If you look at the expenditures, we are at $2 million that's through the month of October, compared to last year at the same time, we were at 2.3 million, and the budget's about 3 million at this point. On the revenue side, we are at 4.4 million compared to the previous year number of 3.8 and a budget of about 3.9. So good news there, ahead of the budget on revenues. The tonnage that we've taken in at Haynesville Road Landfill in the first 4 months of the year is 101,214. So we're ahead of last year and ahead of the budget, which is about 88,000. And in the month of October, we were slightly decreased. September and October both were decreased compared to the first couple of months of the year. We took in 22,744 tons. So still right around the seasonally adjusted budget target for the year, for this month. And at the construction and demolition landfill, we also saw a decline in the month of October. We took in 3,265 tons for a total of 14,873. So still ahead of the budget and ahead of last year, but seeing a little bit of the seasonal decline that we expect to experience, as Courtney mentioned earlier when we talked about the temporary closure of OSR.
Hey, Jan, when we close for 6 weeks, what's your estimated impact on our budget? So I presume no revenues. I presume our variable costs will go down, but we still have probably a lot of fixed costs.
Yes, absolutely. We will be able to divert some of the equipment and the labor resources up to Haynes. So they'll still be in use. So we won't see a lot of decreased expenses down there. But we would expect to lose some of the tonnage that we would have taken in. There's a private sector construction and demolition recycling facility in the county, as many of you know, and they could potentially accept some of the waste that we might have accepted if we were open. So we can't assume that it would all go to Haynes. So I would expect to have some reduction in revenues, yes.
Thanks.
Jan, this is Wesley. Because of the vacancies, are there backups at the sites? I mean, is that as far as providing the service for our customers, is that backing up or?
Yes, we're continuing to see long lines at Haynes, but not to the degree that we saw last year. And Gordon is on the call. He may be able to weigh in on that and give more details, but we're not seeing the very long wait times that we were seeing in the past when it was a little bit more of a crisis up there.
Yeah, that's correct. The lines have gone down compared to last year. The biggest place where we're feeling the staff shortage is just throughout the day with our operators having to, work through lunches some days and being here in the evening, getting things closed up and up to meet our permit requirements.
Part B to that is, so when does the equipment training start?
So I can answer that one. Aaron and I had a call I mentioned earlier with our HR department this morning, and one of the thoughts or one of the options that we are thinking about is partnering with some agencies such as Forsyth Tech or Goodwill for some training, bringing in some people that are interested. Maybe they don't have the CDL requirements or anything at this point, but let's bring them in and train them and then have a program where they can ultimately get the experience and training to be operators. So we're looking at all kinds of options to try to figure out how to address our equipment operator shortage. Okay. Any other questions?
Courtney, Yvonne Hines.
Yes.
What is the starting pay for operators?
So we have a couple different levels. We have a light equipment operator that starts at $31,800.
Mm-hmm.
And then our medium equipment operator starts at 34. I'm pulling out my pay plan.
I'll help you out there. It's 34,080 for medium, and heavy is 36,466.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
So obviously, as I mentioned, that's one piece of the puzzle that we need to look at and make sure we're competitive. Any other questions before we start our agenda items? Okay. I want to point out this picture. This is from City of Winston-Salem University. This was the utilities night. And so these are the members with the back to the picture, to the camera, that were in the class. And then the guy in the blue shirt, that's Antonio Martinez. He's our he is our wastewater collection system engineer, and he leads the CSIP program. So he's explaining to them what these pieces of equipment are for. So I like that picture. Okay, Mike, if you want to.
All right, thank you, Courtney. Item 2 is the one operations item. It is consideration of a resolution authorizing execution of various agreements regarding proposed water and sanitary sewer improvements to be installed within various developments. This month, we have 17 developer agreements for a total of $3,158,050 for water and $4,520,470 for sewer. The higher total of projects this month is due to the engineering department staff working through a backlog of projects. I know you all usually see that many of these come through, but we did want to let you know that was the reason there. Moving to the finance items with item 3, which is consideration of a resolution awarding a contract for the purchase of polymer under the bid procedure waiver of North Carolina General Statute 143-129G. The wastewater treatment division uses polymer for dewatering of solids removed from the treatment process. In order to provide polymers meeting the specifications and requirements for the biosolids drying process, vendors are required to perform testing at our facility to arrive at the proper product formula. SNF Polydyne Inc. obtained pre-approval of its polymer in May of 2017 and was awarded a contract at a unit price of 98 cents per pound. In 2018, staff was made aware of an opportunity to purchase the same polymer at a lower cost under the City of Charlotte's contract with SNF Polydyne. And on June 11, 2018, the Utility Commission awarded a 2-year contract to SNF Polydyne under the state's bid procedure waiver using the City of Charlotte's 2-year contract with SNF Polydyne. And that was at a price of 75.5 cents per pound. And then under the terms of that contract, SNF Polydyne renewed its contract with the City of Charlotte for 2 additional years and reduced the unit price to 73 cents per pound, which provided additional savings for Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities. In June of 2021, SNF Polydyne informed Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities that it could not continue with its current contract price due to increases in raw materials and delivery costs. SNF Polydyne did inform the Utilities Department of a contract with Union County, North Carolina, with a unit price of $1.05 per pound, with a term contract end date of February 17th, 2022. Terms of that bid and contract allow Union County to extend the contract for up to 2 additional years with the option to approve a price index increase or to terminate the contract at any time with written notice. It is recommended that this opportunity be accepted in a purchase order for the remainder of the initial term through February 17th, 2022, be awarded to SNF Polydyne under the state's bid procedure waiver in the estimated amount of $147,000. And just an additional note, given what we're seeing with this market, we're preparing for multiple contingencies as recent bid openings in Cary and High Point for the same polymer came in at $1.42 and $1.43 per pound. So we're recommending this purchase order under the Union County contract so that we can continue to receive the polymer while we evaluate our best options moving forward.
Mike, it's Chris Parker. I kind of missed this. I've got a question about item number 2.
Okay.
And this is maybe just for my greater glory of knowledge. One of the items on there was Louisville Middle School, almost 450,000. Now, they have been open since the beginning of this school year. I was just surprised to see this on the agenda this far after they've been open.
So I'll answer that. So that is correct. It is one that we needed to put through. Obviously, we did not delay opening the school to get this item, the agreement executed, but that is correct. It was delayed and caught up in this backlog.
Okay.
So the line is in place as we speak?
For the school?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to item 4, which is consideration of a resolution approving a change order with Womble Bond Dickinson US LLP for legal services related to the Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plant consolidated influent pumping station improvements. In November of 2016, Womble Bond Dickinson was hired to provide legal assistance for construction delays on the Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plant consolidated influent pumping station improvements project. Today, the Winston-Salem County Utility Commission has approved $695,000 to be spent on legal and professional schedule analysis services regarding this matter. Due to the continuing legal issues, additional legal and professional schedule analysis services are needed. Staff estimates an additional $225,000 is needed for these services. And Womble Bond Dickinson will only invoice for actual expenses incurred. Staff recommends approval of an additional change order in the amount of $225,000 to cover the cost of these ongoing legal fees.
I would like to make a motion to move this item number 4 to after the closed session for consideration.
Chris, could I ask you to maybe, that sounds great, but let's wait till so maybe even instead someone will make a motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, or 1, 2, 3. Do you see what I'm saying? When we get around.
Okay. I just didn't want to start discussing this right now.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we may have another item because I think we need to add something to the agenda for these tipping fee changes too. So at what point we need to add that to the agenda as well?
I don't think we're changing tipping fees, but.
Yeah, Mr. Parker, are you referring back to
OSR and Haynes Mill?
Yeah. So I guess I thought that well, unless the commission tells me otherwise, we're okay with keeping the fee the same at Haynes Mill Road. Unless there's further discussion and we do want to temporarily reduce the fee to match OSR during this temporary closure at OSR.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was an item, and I guess I'm going to let Jan say whether she thinks that would impact things. But if not, then I won't make any motion on that behalf.
Well, it would definitely reduce revenues over that period to lower it by $1, because it would be very difficult to lower it just for the construction and demolition waste stream. We have customers that use both landfills, and it would be very hard to keep. There'd be no way to know whether it was a municipal solid waste load or a construction load.
Okay.
So, Chris, you okay just holding your motion till we get to the end?
Yeah, on item number 4. I didn't make a motion on that other one.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Item number 5 is consideration of a resolution recommending the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem approve a resolution directing application to the Local Government Commission for approval of water and sewer system revenue and revenue refunding bonds. The attached resolution in your book recommends that the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem file an application to the Local Government Commission for approval of the city's water and sewer system revenue and revenue refunding bonds not to exceed $80 million to fund projects such as the Advanced Metering Infrastructure Program, the Collection System Improvement Program, and the Muddy Creek Basin Capacity Improvements Project. Upon approval by the Winston-Salem County Utility Commission, a recommendation for approval of this resolution will be made to the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Tuttle.
For agenda items 1, 2, 3, and 5, any commission member questions or comments or thoughts? And hearing none, I would entertain a motion for a consent agenda approval for agenda items 1, 2, 3, and 5.
So moved. Chris Parker.
Second, Dwayne Long.
Ms. Glenn, would you read the roll for that motion and vote, please?
Yes, thank you. Vice Chair Wesley Curtis,
Yes.
Commissioner Harold Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin, Commissioner Tom Griffin, Commissioner Yvonne Hines,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chris Parker,
Agreed.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Alan Younger. Commissioner Alan Younger,
His was off like mine.
well, I'll go back to Commissioner Tom Griffin.
Yes.
Alan, yeah, and then Alan just gave us the thumbs up.
Oh, okay, yes, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Patrice. That motion passes. Courtney, are we ready for Mr. Curtis to make a motion for agenda item 6?
Yes.
I move that the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities Commission go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A3 to consider and give instructions to its attorneys regarding the handling of claims by MW8 Constructors Incorporated and the North Carolina Department of Labor and to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Second.
We have a motion and a second before roll call vote. Courtney, are there any staff members that we're going to lose in closed session that we need to then subsequently vote on agenda item number 4?
No, there are some staff members that will leave, but that we do not need them on the call for when you revisit number 4.
Got it. Any comment on this motion? I think we have to do another roll call vote, Ms. Glenn.
Yes. Commissioner Wesley Curtis,
Yes.
Commissioner Harold Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Chris Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Alan Younger.
You're on mute.
Yes.
He got a thumbs up. All right. To all, thank you, Patrice, and to all those staff that are leaving us at this time. Thanks for all.
for them to start streaming again. Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we can say welcome back into open session. And I would entertain a motion for agenda item number 4, which is the legal fees relative to the Muddy Creek dispute.
So moved. Dwayne.
Hugh Jernigan.
So we have a motion for Mr. Long, a second, Patrice from Mr. Jernigan.
Thank you.
Any discussion on this motion? Okay, roll call vote, please, Ms. Glenn.
Okay. Vice Chair Wesley Curtis,
Agreed.
Commissioner Howard Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin,
Agreed.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
Agreed.
Commissioner Chris Parker,
I concur.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Alan Younger.
Yeah.
So we have to do this one more time, guys.
That's right, and I would challenge on Mr. Day's motion, I would challenge you not to repeat an approval word that you've heard before. There are only 10 of you. Come on, you can have 10 synonyms for the word yes. Mr. Day.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting for the day.
We have a motion.
Oh, boy. Mr. Wesley, second.
We have a motion and a second, Ms. Glenn. And a creative roll call vote, please.
Okay, and just to break this up a little bit, I'm gonna go up. Commissioner Alan Younger,
Yes.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Approved.
Commissioner Chris Parker,
See?
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
So be it.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan, Commissioner Yvonne Hines,
Affirmative.
Commissioner Tom Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard Day,
Yes, and all the above.
and Vice Chair Wesley Curtis.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
All right, well, that's a long meeting. Thanks for the levity. Thank you all for all the work you do for this great organization. Have a great week.